Hello and welcome to High Fleet, Deus in Nobis, which I've looked up, apparently is God is among us, I think, or God amongst us, or something along those lines. But High Fleet is a unique game, and I'll be going over kind of the various, various unique mechanics in this review. It is, I would probably say it's best described as, it's kind of FTL if you were, it's like Faster Than Light if you've ever played that game, if you were commanding a fleet of ships instead of just the one. But that's a very simple way of putting it. It's far much more to it than that, but it's definitely a unique game. I struggle to come up with something that it's similar to. There's a few different games that I could say it's somewhat similar to. You know, you're commanding a roster of different units. You could argue, therefore, because there's permanent death, there's a roster of units that you customise the loadouts of. It's like XCOM, except it's with spaceships. You could make the argument. You could make the argument that because of its roguelike nature, going from point to point, collecting different bonuses noted by the icons on those points, you could argue that it's like Slave Spire. It's kind of a mishmash of various design concepts and ideas. But I'll be going through its various eccentricities in this. To get us started, I'll just point out though, if you're wanting a really in-depth menu with customizable controls and things, you're not going to find it here. I think if you want to do control mapping, you'll probably have to do it in the control configuration through Steam or something along those lines. It does have a ship editor, so I'll get started with the ship editor first before we head into a game. I'll show you some of my preset ships that I've done and kind of go through the various some of the mechanics of the game. So we've got the HMS Wasp here. The HMS Wasp is, now I will start by saying a lot of the default ships that come on the game are awfully lacking in terms of firepower. They really do lack firepower in every possible way. Most of the regular sort of default ships may only have one turret on them until you get to around the 20k mark, then they start getting 2 or 3. I've managed to create this ship for just over 11 grand in cost to purchase, and it has 3 twin turrets, 57mm, which are very deadly and can be made more so if you add specialised ammo like incendiaries and things to light up enemy fuel systems. It's got a pair of missiles, and it's got a little bit of additional armour on these little wings that poke out here. And that's basically the Wasp. It's a cheap to produce, cheap to maintain ship that has far more firepower than its weight class ought to have, and therefore tends to shred anything that's of a similar size to it. And it can heavily damage even larger ships than it. It will be able to go toe to toe with a frigate for a little while before it eventually has its armour wear out and it gets blasted out of the sky, but it can be a good first strike to kind of act as a screening unit to get rid of enemy missiles and get a good hit on them before you send in a bigger ship with larger guns to finish them off. Which is what the Hornet is for here. We've got the HMS Hornet. It's basically a bigger version of that. Obviously the wings have been expanded, we've got more armour panels put on there. Instead of just 2 missiles, it carries 6, and the guns have been upped from 57 dual turrets to 100 mils, which absolutely shred enemy armour. The specialised ammo for them is a bit expensive, but these are very deadly. A good hammering from a broadside of them and it'll absolutely shred anything. I've been toying with the idea of creating my own capital ship. We won't be using this in this one, I'm just going to stick to the default one because there's still a few kinks I need to work out of this really. But the editor here does allow you to create some quite, your own unique designs with specialized purposes. Another one that I've made, so those are all kind of gun runners, and it's like, well, how am I going to support my fleet? Well, we've got a fuel silo here that I've designed, which is just a giant floating fuel canister. And this will kind of give you the idea of when you're creating your fleet, you want to create different roles, things that are good for different things. So we've got things like this here. We've got some of the, so those are all mine, but the default ones that come with the game. For example, we have, let's have a look, find one, the longbow here. This is a very specialised ship. Gives you access to aircraft along here, and it's got a few, I believe there's a few turrets somewhere hiding in here, but yeah, it's mostly just, it's a aircraft carrier. You don't really want to put this in combat. Ah yeah, there's the gun. It's got a pair of miniguns just as an AA deterrent, but this you really want to be using on the theatre, not in actual combat, to just send out strike groups and intercept enemy ships. So that should give you a rough idea of the sort of ships that we'll be using here. I'm going to start a new campaign, and without getting too much into the spoilers, you have been made basically the admiral of the fleet, and you're on a mission to end a nuclear war. Basically, the enemy we've found out that they've got some weapons of mass destruction. We're off to try and end the war. There is a prologue that acts as a tutorial, but we'll be going past that, and I'll just introduce you to the mechanics as we go. So, the first thing we need to do is we need to select our ships. So, we will take a fuel tanker to help us along. We want to try and keep the range here to as high as we can initially. It does recommend above 2000. I tend to be fine as long as it's above 1500. You tend to be fine. If we're not, we'll just have to do a quick restart, but it should be fine. You're probably wondering as well, so what determines the range? Honestly, it's how much fuel you've got access to. The one issue that there is that initially, as far as I can tell, it doesn't give you a set percentage of your fuel or anything. It gives you a set amount. So even if I take additional fuel canisters here, these fuel silos, as you can see, our effective range is going down. As I mentioned, the reason why it's going down is because it won't actually fill these. It only gives us so much fuel to start with. So the Sevastopol here will get a full tank of fuel, but that has to be then shared amongst the rest of the fleet that we decide to add. So what we can do is, I will still take a tanker, but we're going to take some strike ships. So I'm going to take a couple of Wasps. So as you can see, we're starting to drop now. We probably don't want to take too many more. I'm going to take 2 Hornets as well. And that should be fine for now. I don't think a longbow will quite fit. Actually, we've run out of funds really to be adding more. I'm just going to take that as a nice selection at the start. Right? So, 2 of each, 2 Wasps, 2 Hornets, and we'll get started with that. We've got just about enough range, because as I said now, initially, and I'll skip the story so we don't get spoilers here in case you're thinking of picking it up, but we will get a brief on the operation. I think this will be quite insightful. So, we have to capture the Kiev reactor. Not Kiev, the Kiva reactor. So we have to make it all the way up to the top, up here. Now you've probably seen this map, and you're probably thinking to a lot of other roguelikes, that sort of thing. Which, by the way, this is a roguelike. But you're probably thinking to that, oh, it's similar to something again like Faster Than Light, Slay the Spire. You're looking at these nodes that have got different icons where, yep, this one gives you cheaper fuel, this one has some mercenaries you can hire, this will give you faster repairs. The satellite icon will give you enemy intel. The money icon, no, it doesn't give you money. There's rare parts that are available there, right? So there's those. Oh, and the stars are a save point, and it will also give you a stash of basically a stash of missiles that you can use on the overworld map here. So it's protected by the Governor Squadron, so there's going to be a boss there. And we need to not destroy the reactor. So I imagine what that means. I've not got there yet. I've done, I think my personal best so far has been to get about roughly just shy of halfway. It is a very difficult game, mostly because of the very in-depth mechanics, and you'll notice that as we go through here. This is a game that I would say that, whereas some games are wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle, this game is, it's like a puddle that if you stepped in it, you'd go up to your neck. That's basically how this feels when you're playing it. So, we're going to try to get to Kiva. We'll face worse threats to the success of this operation before we can even reach it. So, there are 5 gathering strike groups equipped with nuclear weapons somewhere in Garat. I strongly suggest avoiding them at all costs, and he is correct in that. You don't want to nuke up your backside. That is not something you want. They move from city to city, once a day, roughly. If they spot us and have time to report it, then they will send out a distress beacon, well, distress radio message, and then they will try to send a strike group. I have had a strike group get to me before. Now, the strike groups, they fire these long-range missiles. As far as I can tell, though, they don't use nukes, and I've looked this up in the manual. They will not use nukes unless you use a nuke. So until we use a nuke, they will only use long-range ballistic missiles. You know, just some long-range, nasty, high-explosive yield missiles. They won't use a nuke. However, we get more and more nukes as we go, and if we happen to know where one of them is, we can just drop a nuke their way. We absolutely can. And we can completely devastate a strike group using them. But the moment we do that, the others will use them back. So we've essentially declared nuclear war at that point. So, but anyway, it's recommended that we stay out of their way. We can intercept radio communications to get a bearing on where they are roughly. And we can capture these tropo scatter communication stations. So if you see again, all these icons give you different things. And yes, the floppy disk one, you can save it during a campaign and basically create a checkpoint, but you have to get to one of these save spots. But when you get there, as I mentioned, it gives you a stash of missiles, which is quite useful. And yeah, they're nuclear missiles, so you get a nuclear arsenal if you pass through one. So it's not just a case of saving. It does give you something good as well, which I appreciate, rather than it being a wasted journey to a station. So going to one of these gives us intel on them, and it will locate their aircraft carriers as well. Yep, they have strike groups with aircraft carriers as well as this, and they absolutely, as well as sending missiles at you, as well as sending aircraft at you, they will send in so they'll literally, as well, the nukes, as well as strike groups, they'll send aircraft carriers, they'll send jets, interceptors, and they'll just they'll do bombing runs on you. And yeah, they'll send long-range missiles that you have to shoot down before they get to you. So they can deploy attacks from 2 2,000 kilometers away, so they can basically reach the cities next to them. Sometimes a bit further on, but usually the next city along, they'll be able to hit you. So there's also transport ships moving around, and if you intercept them, you get some money when you get to the next city as you sell off the cargo, basically. So that's how you get your funds. So intercepting enemy communications is key, and the big problem is that after the first few areas, they will start encrypting them, and we have to go and raid their ships to get. We have to raid their ships to find their encryption keys. Now, when I say that this is mechanically in depth, I'll start with the radio to start. So we've received, when this beeps, we've received an enemy communication that we've intercepted. We click on the flashing bandwidth and we turn the dial until we can see the signal strength just next to it start going up. So you can see just next to it, signal strength, it's gone up. We're now getting something through. We have to turn this, and this tells us the rough direction it's coming from. When we've found out, expect in 9 hours, now heading northwest, carrying something, require provisions on arrival, Albatross. So that looks like it's at Zemaraim. It's heading northwest, which would be here, and it will roughly take 9 hours. So it's going to go here from the looks of things. I would say it's heading there. We may be able to intercept that if we're quick. So that's an example of some of the mechanics. Now, as we get here, we want to catch this station unawares. So I'm going to send, we can select a couple of ships off of here. So I've selected 2 wasps. I'm going to left click here and we will send these in as a separate strike group. And it does actually tell you when you select ships down here that sudden strike probability based on their speed stat. And that allows you to get, it's like on XCOM when you get an ambush off on an enemy. We've caught them before they've been able to detect us, so we catch them with their pants down. We'll get a bonus when we get there to attack them. They'll not be able to call reinforcements, so it should be a smaller garrison, and they'll start on the ground, land in a landed position rather than already in the sky looking for us. So we're going to do that, and that should hopefully allow us to get to this city safely. Before we go on though, so I'll be on about the various mechanics of the game. So we'll start off with all these on the side. So as I mentioned, we've got the radio station. This will allow us to intercept enemy communications. We can eventually form the, if we get clues from destroying enemies, we have to raid their radio room. We can get parts of the enemy's cipher, and when we get all of it, their messages will no longer be encrypted. We can as well, if we're struggling to get the encryption, we can auto-encrypt, but we'll lose part of the message. You already lose some of it, but you'll lose even more if you use that. Here, when that's put away, here we can see the radar. It pulses round on a continuous cycle. So as we can see, we've got a little line here. That means that there's something ahead of us. I believe that those will be our strike group that's just moving slightly ahead, that's going to get to the city before us. We can turn it on to just do a sector search, and then change the bearing of that sector search if we really want. We can turn it on to the ground radar, and we can, this makes it constant this will do one cycle and then turn itself off. Enemies can detect our radar and then use that to figure out where we are. So if we do detect an enemy, once we've figured out where they are and where they're going, it's advisable to then turn this off. Or if we're trying to go undetected in an area without passers-by getting a bead on us, it's advisable to turn this off. I have done before and managed to sneak past enemies to mixed results, but it can be done. Down here is an infrared search, so we've got lots and lots of we've got this really big electronic suite here where we can do lots of scanning and things. A lot of the game is about it's about information more than anything else. If you know where the enemies are, you can avoid them, intercept them. You can do so at your discretion. Basically we'll see this wibbly line spike in areas. When it does, we move this cone to where it spikes, and then we should see something come up on this screen here. Right. Following that, we've got our money here. We've got our spare parts. If you've got spare parts, then you can repair faster, and it may be cheaper as well, but you can repair there. We've got how much fuel we've got left and the range at which we can travel, which is also represented on the map by the blue circle here. Also quite useful. When you zoom in, you see all these lines around us. That matches the sectors on the radar. So if we see something on radar, we can zoom in, look at where they roughly are. And you probably think, well, can we mark them on here? Yes, you can. You can draw on the map. We can draw little circles, and we can even measure distances. So all of these are not just there for show, and we can then rub all this out. So it really is, when I say it's a tactical map, it really, really is a tactical map. Lastly as well, on the electronics here, we've got the danger claw system here. This usually means that there's an incoming aircraft or missile. Something is very damn close to us, and we ought to avoid it. We've got the time passing by here. This toggles on our nuclear payloads, so we can swap between the different types of missiles, but we've only got the one right now. But as you can see, we can toggle them on and tell them to go and blow something up for them. We've got a big red button here we can push to fire them. We can determine how much thrust we want to put on. We can then as well, we've got aircraft. If we had a carrier, our aircraft would be here, and we can send them on their own little strike missions on different targets. And that's something you need to get used to. You don't just have to keep all your fleet as one. You can send them in different strike groups. So I could send the Sevastopol's already got a nice amount of fuel there, so I could send one of these fuel silos and these Hornets perhaps over to this area here, maybe get some reinforcements and bring the refuel as well, and then come back over and I could meet them over here perhaps with the Sevastopol. It could be a good idea. So you can split your units up. And it's something I will say the game excels on, as I've been explaining this massive user interface for the past few minutes. It's very much, from the ground up, you can tell it's designed to be more than anything else immersive. Right? This doesn't just look like I've got a screen in front of me that it's like, no, this feels like an in-game monitor, that I'm sat at some kind of station where I've got all these devices around me commanding my fleet. I'm at some kind of captain's quarters, at some kind of station where I'm doing all of this. It really does feel like I'm at a control centre, and you'll get that a lot in the game as we play through. So we're going to get into some combat. Our strike group will arrive. So we get the controls here just telling us we pull the lever. We can move these around, deploy them in different orders. We will deploy one. Enemies can deploy, I think it's either up to 3 or 4, I think. They don't deploy everything at once. They tend to deploy them in waves of 3 or 4. We've only got 2 small attack corvettes. They have a couple of bombs on them, and all those tankers there are fuel. Whereas we've got triple cannons that are all dual mounts with 2 missiles and a bunch of armour on the bottom and lower ends. Basically, I should absolutely shred these, and we've caught them off guard because they're on the ground. They've landed because they weren't aware of us on approach. So, and that is why that first strike bonus is instrumental to victory. So just a quick look at the combat there. As you can see, when you get hit, the screen shatters and things like that. It is, again, very much on the side of immersion. Now, what they're going to explain to us here is that upon destroying an enemy, now, this is something I quite like. A lot of roguelikes don't do this correctly. The biggest roguelike that kind of championed these mechanics was probably Slay the Spire. On Slay the Spire, when you defeat an enemy, you get a reward. It's a deck building game. You'll get 1 of 3 cards that you can choose from. Right? I really like the idea in roguelikes where instead of just here's a random thingamajig, no, here's a choice. It allows you to kind of build up your run as you want and have a bit more ownership over it, and it allows more strategizing. And we can see that here. We can choose which things we want to salvage from the wreckage, right? We won't be able to get all of it. These little bars below show how long before these are destroyed by things like fires and explosions and so on that's going on within the debris. Now, you think, well, okay, explosions, things going on, is it safe? It's not. If we hover over, we can see this one, we can just salvage. A 37mm minigun. We can salvage that right away if we want, but we've only got so much time. We've got another minigun here, there's no issue to salvage, but, it's a big but. Now, the crew cabins here are a dangerous environment. They're probably on fire or something. If we go in, it's a coin toss as to whether or not we're going to lose some of our own crew attempting to salvage them. Right. Moreover, here, there's the fuel and the ammo. Not only are these a hazard, and doing this without any protection will absolutely, it will kill some of your crew. It's not even a 50% chance like this one. It's no, you will lose some. But what we can do is we can put on our hazard protection suits. So we can put on basically some fireproof clothing, you know, get a bit of armour or whatever on, some flat vests, that sort of thing, and then send our crew in. Right? This removes all risk of being damaged. Right? It removes all the risk. But it will take time. In that time, these bars will go down, so we'll get less salvage. So, if we want to get the more dangerous items, we have to put on some protection. But there's more. As it says here, if the fuel canisters explode, they will destroy a random object. So it won't just be that the fuel tanks go, one of these other items will also go. It can even be the ammo, so the fuel could blow up the ammo. The ammo has the same negative effect. That could then blow up and take one of the others. So, I'm going to start. This doesn't require protection. I'm going to go and get this. and then going to get this. Hopefully before the fuel and ammo go, we can get some protection on. In fact, no, the fuel's blown up, the only thing left was the ammo. So we got the guns, we managed to drag the guns off, but the fuel and ammo have detonated, and the rest of the wreckage is now, well, it's just that, it's wreckage now. And you can even kind of see on the map all the exploded bits and things. Now, once we're at a town, and I'll just wait for the main fleet to catch up, so we can now open this hatch and we can land at the town. I'll show you, just for the sakes of showing you, that if you want to get a bonus to repair speed, you can. If we land this on one of these little nodes at the bottom, and yes, you can land it on 2 or more at once. I really need to slow this down.
100 meters. Everyone get ready. Touchdown confirmed.
Little bit of damage, but we get a 14% repair bonus for that. But if you are getting this, I would strongly advise against doing that. I'll tell you why in a moment. We'll just read through this event. So, a dozen colourful tents dot the sand along the edge of the city, surrounded by vehicles of scurrying servants. All signs of a visiting caravan. You decide to pay them a visit and ask them about current events. The leader, a tall, gaunt man, relays you the grim news of recent days. Refugees are fleeing the Garatsi in droves. They are without number, far too many. They offer gold and riches for a safe journey, but bring misery without end. Too many of them are sick. Ishvan's caravan has had pyres burning for the 3rd day in a row. So many dead. These are the end times. So we can ask them about... Now, the Tarkans, those are generals. You can find and ally people, and you do a whole speech check thing where you have to choose different things that you're going to say, and they have various different effects on the character as you go through it. I'll see if we can find one maybe, so we can have a look at that. But we can ask about the convoys that are going past to see if we can intercept one, or we can ask the about hidden cities. I've not even actually explored these as of yet, but again, it's very in depth, this game. Lots of mechanics. So there's one to the north. So if we find one of those Tarkans, it's an officer. They will have a ship, and if we can convince them to, again through this sort of like little speech check mini game, you will be able to get them and their ship to join you for free. So it's very beneficial to find them and ally with them. So the next thing we're going to look at here is we've got the ship works. So we've had a bit of superficial damage on the Wasp, so I'm just going to repair that up. Boom, there we go. It won't take very long, and it'll just cost 100 quid. Not really much, so we're going to go ahead with that. We only really took superficial damage. Here we can take our winnings. We've got 2 guns here. Now, I could keep them, or I can sell them. These will fetch me 3,000 each. You get to sell them at full price, which is very generous. It will get me, about 6 grand in cash, which will get added to my funds. So your winnings, you don't have to attach them all onto your ships or anything. You can just sell the extra parts. When you repair, it will always add additional parts onto your ship, so I don't have to like replace guns or anything. As long as the ship had those on originally, it will just reattach them. Another thing though is the supplies. So we're going to be buying. So this is a fuel storage area, which means the fuel here is cheaper. So I'm going to get 9,000 worth of fuel. and that kind of shows you the range. So this is the local area, and as you can see, the blue circle goes up as the fuel tanks fill, and we can fill that up to full, which is exactly what I'll do. The next thing is we've got special ammo. So I really like the 57mm incendiaries. They're very, very cheap, very cost effective. They can be used on my wasps that I've designed, or even the capital ship, which has a couple of 57mm turrets on it. We're going to buy plenty of 57mm incendiaries. That means when we hit the enemies, there's a chance of it causing a fire. Really good for, especially if you hit anywhere near the fuel tanks. The fire hopefully will spread, blow up the fuel tanks. Really nasty to use, which is why I love using it. But we can get others. There's 100 mils there. There's proximity fusers, incendiaries, all the different calibers and types, and you can find different ones available at different storage, different supply areas, different shops. So they've got different selections, kind of like the shops in Fast and Light and things, or in other such roguelike games. So there's a bunch of things it can have, but it doesn't necessarily always have them. So we're going to exit, but now we have to wait for the ship to refuel. So we can see time's passing by, and oh well, we've got it paused at the moment, so we unpause, and we're slowly beginning to refuel. Now luckily we can press the shift button, and that will increase the speed at which time passes. We have got a radio signal to intercept, but you can kind of sort of get the flow of the game now. You hopefully get an idea for the kind of flow of the game. This is most of the game is pretty much shown off at this point. We've shown off most of the mechanics. It really is. When I say it's in depth, my route something Engedi cargo chemicals. Engedi. Don't know. Anyway, we're going to wait till we've refueled.
Attention, new target on the radar.
That. Oh, Engedi. Yeah, they've come to us, right? We are going to turn. Let's go with the wasps. The wasps are very fast, so we're going to send them off to try and intercept. So before long, strike groups will change course this way. So yep, he's just warning us that now we've been detected. But we've intercepted them. And they are a cargo ship. So that's the cargo ship in that message. It's got 2 attack corvettes defending it. Now, this will give you a good... This will be a bit of a bigger fight, give you a good example of the combat. So, I want these to be made very dead very quick. But I want to try and avoid shooting the cargo ship. If you kill all of its escorts and leave the cargo ship alive, you will receive it as a reward. And if you get it back to the city, then not only will you receive it as a reward, you'll be able to. It will then automatically sell it off, and you'll get a giant cash injection. So we're aiming to basically attempt to, if we change course here, we might dodge that missile. You can get flare systems on your ships as well to try and avoid those. That's gonna hit. We'll use our fire extinguishers. Going to try and retreat quickly. before we get splattered by that missile. No. Ah. So unfortunately that ship's now destroyed. Its crew have abandoned ship on the escape pods. But we've still got these to take out. We have nearly got these. Got him. So as you can see, the cargo ship will now surrender its cargo. Now, let's say, and I think I would actually agree with this here, I don't want to lose all these crew members and one of my ships. I can retry this and see if I can do a better job. However, they get a morale penalty. So, the morale in the game is basically, so there's a morale system. If you rest and recover at towns and cities, it will recover morale. So as you can see, we've got 7. So these can go into 7 more battles before they abandon us and our cause and just leave our fleet. Which I haven't had happen to me yet. Usually my ships die long before then. But if we retry too many times, that's what will basically happen. So there is a consequence to retrying over and over again, but you are encouraged to try and get better results. Now that I've had a bit of a feel for the combat, hopefully I can do a little bit better in this fight. I think first of all, what I want to do this time is probably attempt to hit them with some missiles the first strike. And that one can probably now be safely destroyed and taken out from the battle. So we've got one, we are on fire. And I'm going to try and retreat from the battle. Oh, yep, we've taken a few hits from those missiles now. I don't want to be around here much longer. So I'm going to quickly move towards the retreat. You can do like tactical boosts on your ships by pressing the sprint button as well. But it does generate more engine heat. So if you keep hearing your engines are overheating, it's because I'm trying to boost out of the way of incoming missiles. It seems I've not got a flare system on these ships. I don't think I'll need the missiles for this, but I hope I'm correct. He looks like he's on his last legs now. Yeah, the whole ship's on fire, we just have to wait for it to touch the ground. There we are. Now, we've only lost 3 members of our crew, and one of our ships is just damaged, which is a much better result. And we've got to make our choices again. So, the only danger is the fuel tanks. If we disassemble the hull, we'll get some repair parts, which could be useful. But I'm going to search the captain's cabin.
Attention. Visual contact.
Ships of Garat, Tarkin spotted northwest of city. Tinaf Sarai, you are ordered to increase security patrols for all operations in this area. We've got another incoming thing here. Right. We'll send out this one first. Wow, we've got another cargo ship here. Almost this was the campaign I was doing for the Let's Play on this, because this is definitely some good luck. Right. We'll launch our missile and dodge theirs. This has gone a lot smoother. Oh, that's a pummeling he just got there. No, hang on. Got him. Easy pickings. Wow. We have so much stuff we've to do here. Right. We're dismantling that. Dismantle this. Get the fuel saved. We'll dismantle them a lot. Get the hull. And he's just explained to us that that gives us fast repair speeds as long as we've got that. Refueling, riot danger. Right, and we will now, probably our best bet is to rejoin with our group. And we need to get the hell out of here. We're going to go straight up away from here. Now, it did say there was a officer to the north, so it could be north of there. I would say is up here in this area. So I would say it's either here or here that we should find an officer. Hopefully we will, and I can show off the minigame on speech, but we may not get the chance. Oh. There we are. Looks like we've got... We'll arrive in approximately less than 1 hour travel. They're going to, so someone has said they're going to arrive in an hour, and they are located here. We could change course, but I don't know if that means that they're going to get here, but it originated from here. So I'm wondering if maybe they're travelling to one of the nearby cities, perhaps.
Warning, radar emission detected.
Hostile radar signal. Yeah, so there's something close here. We're going to have to send something out, I think. We'll send out the...
Attention, new target on the radar.
Something just went past very quickly. And we're going to send in the Hornets as a strike team. I think that there's an aircraft carrier around here. Right, we've got a couple of corvettes. Well, a couple corvettes. We do have missiles, and that is exactly what I'm going to do first. We probably don't need them on this one. No, he's just been shredded. And let that escape. I'll get out of there. Are you trying to bomb me? You cheeky sod. Got him. Ow. So this one does have flares, as you can see. We did attempt to flare that, but... oh well. My right side is badly damaged, and I'm down to 1 engine. So I'm going to try and show him the left side. And use what missiles I have left to try and take him out before he, finishes me off. Not bad, I won't risk that again. We did manage to get through without having only damaged 1 ship, so Right, firstly, we're going to go and search the... In fact, are any of these dangerous? No, none of these are actually dangerous.
Attention, new target on the radar.
Yeah, that looks like aircraft coming in from... here, perhaps, or here.
Attention, new target on the radar.
Danger close. Right. Here's an issue. That's probably gonna kill a unit. Yeah, both are heavily damaged now. Oh, yeah. So these are the theatre missiles. So there's a missile carrier somewhere here. Probably, I would guess here, there's a missile cruiser. And it's just lobbing long-range missiles that, as I mentioned, these aren't... These are launched from the sort of theatre area here, and when they reach you, you go into a battle screen wave to try and intercept them and stop them before they hit you. There's not much we can really do other than just kind of hope they don't destroy us outright here. We are getting absolutely pummeled by these. But we are finding, so we've found part of their cipher. We'll search for crew cabins. We've found a gift we can use in speech checks. That will give us extra turns. Now, we're not going to land because whilst it does give you a repair bonus, this is something I will point out, and I was kind of alluding to it earlier. You can absolutely destroy your ships on the landing pads. You can keep retrying it, but not only that, once they've landed, when they're in the background on the town screen, they're still active. So we won't send these, obviously they've had the landing gear destroyed, so we won't be able to get any additional repair speed for them. The anecdote, so this one, there's someone telling a tale about us. So, when one of the Temercan's Noyans called his grace our duke a servant of Elau, he had the Noyan boiled alive and cast in a cast iron pot, and he squealed like a pig. He notices our presence, and we're going to leave him alone. So, when we've landed, your ship will be in the background on one of these docks. It's still active. I've before gone landed my ship. It's in the background here, and then it's just the physics have kept active, and it's rolled off the side and exploded, and then I've just lost the ship. You absolutely can lose the ship in those moments. You absolutely can, and damaged ships are incredibly difficult to land. I would not do it. Lightly damaged ones, maybe, but and anything big, there's only so much space on the landing pads, so I would never land the Sevastopol, for example. We also don't stay around too long, so you've got how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost. We want to kind of balance those out. Like, we could fully repair this, but that would take a long time. We'll get to about there, maybe 13 hours in. The Wasp shouldn't take long. It will literally cost nothing, so we can just queue that up. The other Wasp, ooh, this will take a while. Once you've marked an area for repair, it won't cost any more whether it's going to be repaired a little or a lot, so you may as well drag it to full and then just leave when you decide that it's good enough, I suppose. But anyway, we'll go to supplies. It is a fuel storage depot, so we'll buy some fuel. And there's no 57mm incendiaries. You can see what I mean though when I say there's all kinds of calibers here. That one literally looks like a drain pipe that gets loaded into a gun. But yeah, so we'll refuel, we'll repair. To all ships, contact. So I think we've been made.
Warning, radar emission detected. Attention, new target on the radar.
And I think it's time for us to leave. If we just continue, we can ignore his requests there and just leave immediately. And I think it is highly recommended that we do that right now. And they are absolutely following us.
Target on the radar.
Yeah, so we're basically being detected. We have some anti-air missiles that we can fire off of our capital ship.
Missile away.
We'll fire a few of those now. And hopefully
On fire. Missile away. Missile destroyed.
but as you can see,
System is on fire.
yeah, these things are very nasty. They hit like absolute trucks, these aircraft. We have managed to swat a few out of the sky. And they'll go back to rearm now. Right, so judging on the angle they were going at, those planes, I would reckon that they've headed to probably somewhere around here-ish, Imgo or something. They do have that kind of range on them. Is there anything we can send forward in a strike group here? We've got... The Wasp isn't too bad. That Hornet looks like hell. That Wasp's kind of screwed. Probably only these two, really. In fact, I'm not even going to do that. There's something chasing us. Well, he's recommending. We'll send them two. I'll not send that. That one's too heavily damaged. Right. So, 3 corvettes. Shouldn't be too bad. We can put on incendiaries, which I think is probably a good idea given that there's that we're fairly damaged already. Let's try and hit this one here. Bit rough that hit. We are trying to circle it. Couple of good hits there at the end. I think we've started a few fires on that ship now because of the incendiary rounds. There we go. You don't want to get too close either when they explode. You can get caught in the blast radii. Right. We are out of incendiary rounds though now. But we gave them just a good enough pummeling that the high explosive sorted that out for us. And we've got that one there. Good job. Very good job. But we have been made again, so we're not going to be able to stick around here long. But we have made we've made it to get a promotion, so we can have repair faster or casualties reduced from the ship. So we're going to go for faster repairs on this one. We have a lot of deadly things we want to be doing here. We'll get straight on the survivors, and while that's happening, Yeah, that carrier's back on us. And we are getting bombed to hell. Okay. And there's one on the left side. Right. Ammo is safe. We can search for survivors and dismantle that cannon. Fleet has regrouped. That came from up here. So we're in a bit of a tough spot now. Again, I'm not going to land these. The Hornet, for whatever reason, these legs seem to be very bendy, and whenever I've tried to land that thing, it always seems to explode. We will, before we finish though, just to kind of show you the last few various mechanics of the game. So we'll not be staying around here for very long, just enough to kind of refuel and rearm a little. I'm going to say no more than 10 hours. So we'll do a few repairs, but again, no more than 10 hours. Close enough. Right. We'll get the wasps repaired. I'm going to sell all of those. And that should give us just enough fuel to get to that fuel storage depot. And a little extra because we might have to send some of our units out as a strike group and things. So just a bit extra in case. Or if we need to change course or anything. We'll buy out the 57 incendiary. And now, just to kind of show it off, we'll take a carrier. And I'll even take a Yars. A Yars is a nuclear missile carrier as well, if I remember correctly. I'll even take a Lightning. So we've got a new corvette. So we've got some reinforcements added to our fleet. So as I mentioned, the sword icon, that's what that is. Now, as far as I'm aware, so what I can do here, I can select. It's not quite got the range. We've got a KH-15, a KH-15N. So yeah, the N meaning nuke, I guess. Right. I will see as well. Did we have any on no, we've not got any in our stocks here. Right. So we've just got the Yars, and I think there's one on the Sevastopol. Something is coming to get us. So we are going to be in a fight. We've got a lot of attack cruisers. These are very nasty. We're going to take incendiary ammo. We're going to try to light up their fuel beforehand. And that should see us through this. We'll send the Sevastopol in third. That should be fine. I don't want to keep sending corvette after corvette to death. So we'll try and wear out the missile stocks with the first few here. If we just change course a few times there, in there, quickly, that should confuse the missiles so that we can dodge. I think they even shot their own out of the skies then. Dodge that missile quickly. And as we can see, he's now on fire. He's had to use his fire extinguishers. We can give him a pretty decisive pummeling before we go here. We don't have any missiles left, unfortunately. The trick here is going to be to try and dodge these larger cannon shells, which is fairly easy. It's the missiles that are the problem there. Right, fire extinguisher used. We can't do anything now. We're just going to have to leave as quickly as we can. Unable to though. We've lost a wasp. We've lost our second ship. Now we still have a missile on this, hopefully that will get through. These cannon shots, however, they will absolutely shred them if we manage to land our hits. Like that. Right side has gone, we're going to try and give him our left. And our underbelly, which has still got a lot of armour on it. Got him. Fortunately though, they brought another ship in. Okay, I think that's us out. Put out any fires and make our retreat. Right, the capital ship. So your capital ship does actually come into combat, and as you can see, now the real fight begins. Right, we're going to launch missiles. It's got an anti-missile system. Now it doesn't. The capital ship has way more firepower, way more survivability, and is absolutely devastating in fights. The reason you don't tend to take it is that it's a lot easier to detect. Because it's a lot easier to detect, it makes it more likely that the enemy is going to send off warnings. And if they send off warnings, then that's going to get more of them and more of them to come over. Not only that, but also the carrier, the damage to repairing the damage is costly and time consuming at the shipyards, and again it's so big that you don't tend to be able to actually land the damn thing when you get there, so you don't tend to get repair time bonuses. As a result, it's highly recommended that it's sent in as a last resort, or you send some units ahead of it. It's particularly vulnerable as well because you can't dodge out of the way to it's very vulnerable to missiles and heavy cannons, whereas your fast, more nimble units, as you've seen with the Wasps, were able to dodge missiles and things. So the game definitely encourages specialised roles, and that sort of thing. It's very strategic with the sort of ships that you build and put out there. On that note, I'm going to kind of move toward concluding this now. I've been going close to the hour mark. So, essentially, there we go. We've rescued some crew there, so that can replenish the ones that we've just unfortunately lost on the Wasp. We're not doing bad actually here, considering that we've only lost 2 ships. Not bad at all, though we really need to repair. Anyway, I will open the hatch here, and in fact no, we've still got some refueling to do, and we can then go and land over here. But the game, so as I say, it's very mechanically in depth. If you like the sort of games where, when I say, you know, it's mechanically in depth, it really is. I don't know why that's saying a Wasp. That's definitely the longbow aircraft carrier we have. Yeah, I think we've lost our Wasps. What does he recommend for a strike group? Just the lightning. Just send the lightning through. Why not? On its own. Oh god. I tell you what. I know what we'll do. We've got an aircraft carrier now. We can send. Now let me see. How do I select them? So I've got 37 mils. We can send them as their own strike group. And we'll send this with an anti-air missile to go as well. So this should be an automated battle, so we can see the enemies there. I might have done that incorrectly, I guess. Got 2 with cannons. Why aren't they doing anything? Maybe I've done this incorrectly. Right. This one with a missile should do something. First time I've used aircraft. Might have done it incorrectly. Probably did it incorrectly. No idea. Oh well. I was hoping to show that off, but yeah, I might have to reread the manual on that one. Again, that is not in the tutorial. That you have to read the manual how to use the aircraft. Which again, the game is. We're not going to be able to get this. I'll just try and auto do it. Okay. But I'm going to leave it here. Well, we'll get to this save station and we'll call it there. Two corvettes and a frigate. That one is packing a hell of a lot of heat. The Hornet is not suited to this because it's very badly damaged. We'll send a lightning and we'll see how that goes. The lightning is very mobile. And I think that shows by the screen weirding out all the time when it's flying. And it's already had all the guns get blown off. Right, so here we can once this incoming fire's gone, we can send our fighters out. And hopefully they'll do something while we retreat. We'll put out those fires.
The fuel system is burning.
Wow. Yeah, we've already had 2 or 3 fires that I've had to put out, and we've been set on fire again. We'll retreat that out. There's the aircraft then. So you can see it there, they're going in, they're doing little strafe runs. Devastating strike on these ships here.
The enemy has been destroyed.
Got him. Right. As I mentioned, but it's very... The game is, I would say, to kind of summarise my thoughts on it, it is very mechanically in depth. It is very rewarding when you figured out how everything seems to work.
Attention, new target on the
In
radar.
fact, these are the only dangerous things. I would just get on these immediately. Oh, what have we got now? Yep, aircraft. They've got 12 missiles. There's a whole group of them coming in. That's going to be painful.
Missile destroyed.
Not many of them left. It's coming back in for another run. Heh, but he ain't getting out. Right. We might be able to secure some fuel as well. So, fuel and a gun. So, you'll notice this is a save location. It's got a little star. So this will now act as a checkpoint for our campaign. We do find some of the enemy's nukes stashed away here, so we'll get that as a reward. So as you can see, we've got KH-15 nuclear missiles. And we can even go into the ship works and, well, first I am going to repair these as well, so that'll be 11 hours. Okay, that is not a wasp, that's a longbow. I don't know why it's glitched out there, but sure. And the Hornet. Wow. I don't think we're going to be able to repair the Hornet in time while we're here. Supplies. We'll fuel up a little bit. Maybe there-ish. We've got 57 million incendiaries. We have. But as you can see as well, these nukes, we can go down here. We can sell them if we want. They're 4k each, these nukes. Pretty good. But we'll end with a bang. So as soon as it's saved now, and I can basically, if I want to, I can erase that progress. So I can basically go back to that point. Anything we do here from now on that we don't want to necessarily do or commit to, we can just always load that back up. I think that there's an aircraft carrier here. Nuclear armaments. Are you certain you want to do this, Duke? Once this genie is out of the bottle, we will not be able to put it back inside. This is going to happen sooner or later, Pluto. Ooh. So, war crime, kindness -1. So there you go. You can start a nuclear war if you want to. Again, to summarise, the game is very mechanically in depth. It is absolutely from the ground up designed for immersion. All of these instruments and everything, it's all there, it's tangible, it's all in the game. I would compare it to things like Alien Isolation, Metro Exodus, Dead Space, where they try to create this minimalist UI that it's all in the game, rather than it being all heads up things and all around. It's all stuff in the game. Like on Dead Space, you don't have a health bar on the screen, you have a health bar on your armor. It's that sort of idea. So the idea here is to make it feel like you're at a console in your ship commanding the fleet, yeah? So literally everything here does something. It's all built around immersion and making it all feel much more real than games normally would. You know, we're not just navigating some menus and pressing buttons and things. No, it's all like actual things on the screen here. They're all 3D objects and models and things, even down to accessing the things to draw on the screen. It's all really well done. Very much enjoying my time with it. You have to think very strategically and things like that. But I will say, while it's really good, and even the combat is very satisfying, they've got some really nice particle effects on the explosions and things as we've very much just seen there. I would argue that the game is, how would I put it? It does have its areas where it falls short on. I think that a lot of its mechanics are obfuscated. Some aren't in the tutorial. Unless you read the manual which comes with the game, which, by the way, it's like accessing a DLC on Steam. It's a little thing on the side. I can even show it. We've got the manual is literally here. You click on it, it opens a PDF. There's a manual. What I would recommend if you're wanting to try this game out, play the prologue, have a run, maybe 2. You'll probably get used to 80% of the mechanics through the tutorials and just having a go. The last few things like firing the nukes, learning how to manage aircraft, which I clearly still need to learn, you really need to read the manual on the idea of that. So I would read the manual after you've had a run or 2, not necessarily the whole thing, just on the parts that you still feel unsure of. But again, it's very rewarding, very good. It's a game that really makes you think. And I will say another problem with it is the difficulty. It is very harsh. If you've seen, as soon as the enemy get wind of your location, it very quickly escalates. It goes from, hey, we're seeing a few corvettes that we can easily take out with just one of our ships, to, oh god, why are there 3 frigates whilst they're also bombarding us with missile cruisers and aircraft carriers. Yeah, staying under the radar in this is extremely important and also very difficult to do. Even with all these tools and things, it's very difficult to actually get your head around it all. And I think that could be quite off-putting for new players and things. So again, I would, if you do get this, take your time with it. Realise that the first few times you're going to make a lot of mistakes while you're basically getting used to the mechanics. I mean, until a few hours ago I didn't even know you could turn this on to do a ground radar mode. You know, I'd not bothered to look at this. I've still yet to find anything with the IR search. Again, I know that like a big wiggle will come up on here. Looks like a heartbeat monitor where one of them will go jolt up really high and you have to move it to that. But when I do, I don't see anything on this bit. No idea. But all that said, there are again things as well in the shipworks, the actual editor. You can't actually designate your own custom flagships. You have to go into the file it creates for your custom ones in the game files, open one of the files up in Notepad++, and add a line of code to designate it as being able to be used as a flagship. So you can make your own flagships, but not in the game. You have to do it in the game, go out, adjust the file slightly, and you're good to go. Also, the editor, I would like to choose what ships I want to put it up against. When I press the test button at the moment, you can't, they're just randomized. And once you place something, you can't place multiple of them without going to the bottom and selecting another one, and so on and so forth. There's no undo and redo buttons. The editor needs some work, I think. It needs some love and care, that thing. The game, otherwise, well, again, it's very enjoyable, really good. If you really like these sort of roguelike survival strategy type games like FTL, that sort of thing, it's very much like what would I describe it as? Like Battlestar Galactica, sort of in the fashion of FTL. That is actually a perfect description for it. I think I've finally come up with something. I would say it's if Battlestar Galactica made a roguelike game, sort of in the veins of FTL and that, this is exactly what it would be. And it is absolutely fantastic. If you are the sort of person who is okay with reading an owner's manual before you start your game up, this is absolutely for you. If you want something that's more just drop in, play and have fun, this might be a bit much. It's very mechanically in-depth and complicated, but very rewarding when you get your head around it. Really interesting play. Would highly recommend. If I were to put a number on it, I'd probably get like an 8 out of 10 if I were going to put a number on. If they made the editor a bit better, clean up tutorials so that it covered aircraft carriers and lobbing nukes at people, I would probably say at that point I'd probably get a 9 or close. Maybe not quite a 10, but definitely like a 9. I think this is, in years to come, this will probably become like a cult classic, I think. I really do think it's got that kind of vibe to it. Anyway, seeing as we're ending, let's just lob a couple more nukes about. Oh, launch as well. Hang on, I have to do it all in one. Then click, then launch. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. They're gone. Oh, and before I go, if you do want to see more, I am doing a Let's Play series, so feel free to have a look at that if you want to see a bit more of it in depth, more of the gameplay, and me slowly figuring my way out up to this point. This is after like 8 hours of playing it, and I'm still just figuring my way around the mechanics. But again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.